The year 2432 marked a new era for humanity, as the starship Pioneer finally arrived at its destination after a decades-long journey through the cosmos. Kepler 442b, dubbed HellWorld by the media back on Earth, loomed large in the view screens, its surface roiling with extreme volcanic activity and temperatures that could melt lead. Captain Lena Rhodes stood at the forefront of the observation deck, her eyes scanning the turbulent landscape below. The mission, under her command, was to assess the planet for potential human colonization, a task that seemed increasingly daunting with each new data packet received from the surface probes. "Status report," Captain Rhodes called out, her voice cutting through the low murmur of her crew working diligently at their stations. "Orbital insertion complete, Captain. We're in a stable geosynchronous orbit above the primary continent," replied Lieutenant Marco Jennings, the ship's pilot. "All systems nominal, but the external sensors are taking a beating from the radiation and magnetic fields." The science officer, Dr. Emily Tan, adjusted her glasses as she turned from her console to address the captain. "Initial scans have revealed more than we anticipated. There's complex organic chemistry at play here, and not just in isolated pockets. Life in some form is thriving, despite the conditions." The revelation stirred a mix of excitement and anxiety in the crew. Life on HellWorld was not expected. The extreme conditions had led scientists to predict a barren wasteland. "We need ground truth. Prepare a landing party," Captain Rhodes decided, her gaze fixed on the swirling orange and red below. "We'll start with remote operations. Deploy the drones at the following coordinates." She pointed at a relatively stable zone marked on the digital map displayed on the main screen. The crew moved into action, each member well trained for their respective roles. The drone bay buzzed with activity as the small, robust machines were prepped and checked for their perilous descent into the unknown. As the drones began their descent, the main screen in the control room flickered with the feed from their onboard cameras. The landscape of Kepler 442b unfolded, a world of fire and brimstone, with rivers of lava and skies clouded with ash. "Look at that," Dr. Tan murmured, pointing at the screen where a shape moved swiftly across the terrain. "Is that?" The image zoomed in, enhancing the view of a creature navigating the harsh environment, its body radiating heat in a way that bent the light around it. It was a breathtaking moment, the first undeniable proof of life thriving in a place where no human could set foot unprotected. Captain Rhodes felt a chill despite the warmth of the control room. Document everything. HellWorld might just live up to its name, but it's also more alive than we ever imagined. "This," she said, gesturing to the screens, "changes everything." After the initial discovery of life on HellWorld, the mood aboard the Pioneer shifted palpably. The crew, once dominated by a mix of skepticism and scientific curiosity, now buzzed with the possibility of what might lie below. Captain Rhodes authorized the deployment of a manned lander to the surface, equipped with the most advanced protective and scientific gear humanity could offer. The objective was clear: gather data, observe the local fauna, and, most importantly, determine the nature of the environment and its inhabitants. Lieutenant Nora Kim, an exobiologist, led the landing party. She was joined by Dr. Emily Tan and two other specialists, each trained for a different aspect of the mission. Their lander, the Calypso, descended through the thick, turbulent atmosphere, its heat shields glowing red from the friction. Upon landing, the team immediately began setting up a perimeter. The landscape was as inhospitable as it was mesmerizing, with molten rivers and spurts of flame jetting from fissures in the ground. The air was thick with sulfurous gases, necessitating the use of rebreathers. Dr. Tan deployed several ground sensors and remote analyzers, while Nora ventured closer to the area where the creature had been spotted. Her suit's external cameras relayed real-time data back to the Pioneer, where Captain Rhodes and the rest of the crew watched anxiously. Suddenly, a series of low, rhythmic sounds pulsed through the lander's audio feed. The sounds were unnatural, patterned, and clearly a form of communication. Nora paused, her training as an exobiologist kicking in. She activated her suit's external speakers and attempted to mimic the sounds. The response was immediate. A group of the same heat-bending creatures emerged from a nearby rock formation. They moved with purpose and intelligence, their bodies adapted perfectly to the searing environment. Their skins appeared to be made of a living, mineral-like substance that glowed faintly with internal heat. Attempting first contact, Nora communicated to her team, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. She repeated the sounds, watching as the creatures tilted their heads, seeming to listen. Slowly, one of the creatures approached, its movements cautious but not overtly hostile. It stopped a few meters away, its body language open and curious. Nora offered a simple universal greeting gesture by opening her palms. In a stunning display of mimicry, the creature mirrored her actions. Back on the Pioneer, Captain Rhodes and her crew watched in awe. "Dr. Tan, are we recording all of this?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the screen. "Every bit of it, Captain. This is historic," Dr. Tan replied, her voice thick with emotion. Over the next few hours, the team conducted basic interactions with the creatures, who they began referring to as the Thermians due to their heat-based adaptations. They shared simple sounds and gestures, establishing a rudimentary form of communication. As the Calypso prepared to return to the Pioneer, Nora looked back at the Thermians who had followed them to the lander. There was a moment of mutual recognition, a silent understanding that this was just the beginning. Captain Rhodes summed up the day's events in her log. First contact made, a new chapter for humanity and for HellWorld. What comes next could redefine our place in the universe. Following the successful first contact, the Pioneer's mission shifted from exploration to engagement. The revelation of intelligent life on HellWorld necessitated a more nuanced approach. Captain Rhodes convened a meeting with her senior crew and representatives from Earth's United Space Command via a delayed communication link. The consensus was clear: establish a dialogue with the Thermians and explore the possibility of a peaceful coexistence. The Pioneer established a semi-permanent base, a safe distance from the Thermians' habitat, named Outpost Alpha. The base served as a hub for scientific research and a meeting point for interactions with the Thermians. Dr. Emily Tan led the scientific outreach, focusing on understanding the biochemistry and environmental adaptations of the Thermians, while Lieutenant Nora Kim focused on cultural exchange, trying to decode their communication patterns and social structures. Over weeks, the Thermians gradually warmed to the human presence. They began to approach Outpost Alpha, sometimes bringing artifacts or samples of their technology, which appeared to be crafted from the very rocks and minerals of HellWorld itself. These items demonstrated their ability to harness and manipulate thermal and seismic energies, a technology far beyond human expectations. One day, the Thermians invited Nora and her team to visit their community. The journey required traversing rugged terrain under extreme conditions, pushing human technology and physical limits. The destination was a network of caves, shielded from the planet's harsh surface environment. Here, the air was cooler, and the surroundings were rich with bioluminescent plants and crystalline structures that lit the caverns in a kaleidoscope of colors. The cave system was expansive, housing a complex society of Thermians. The humans were introduced to a council of elders, who communicated through a combination of vocalizations and intricate body language. The elders expressed a cautious curiosity about the humans, revealing through simple language translation devices that they were aware of the humans' long journey and had observed their arrival with great interest. The elders shared the history of their people, explaining how they had adapted over millennia to survive and eventually thrive in the hostile environment of HellWorld. They spoke of ancient cataclysms that reshaped their world and their society, leading to the development of their unique technologies and the deep bond they held with their planet. In return, Nora shared humanity's own history, the discovery of space travel, and their search for new homes among the stars. The exchange was recorded and broadcast back to Earth, capturing the imagination of billions and painting a hopeful picture of a new interstellar friendship. However, as the humans delved deeper into the caverns, they stumbled upon evidence of internal divisions among the Thermians. Some sections of the caverns were sealed off, guarded by what appeared to be Thermian warriors. These areas radiated an intense energy signature, hinting at powerful technologies or perhaps weapons unknown to the outer community. Dr. Tan, observing these signs, voiced her concerns to Captain Rhodes. There's more to this civilization than meets the eye. Their technology. It's not just about survival. There might be elements within their society that see us as a threat. The chapter closes with Captain Rhodes reflecting on this new complexity, realizing that the mission could be at a critical juncture. The potential for a deep and meaningful alliance with the Thermians was clear, but so too was the possibility of conflict, should misunderstandings or fear drive a wedge between the newfound allies. The next steps would require careful diplomacy and an openness to the mysteries and dangers of HellWorld. Captain Lena Rhodes convened a meeting with her senior staff and key scientific personnel aboard the Pioneer to discuss the recent developments with the Thermians. The complexity of their society and the hints of their advanced, potentially militaristic technology raised both opportunities and challenges. The mood was one of cautious optimism mixed with a significant degree of wariness. "We need to establish a more formal framework for interaction," Captain Rhodes proposed, her eyes scanning the room for reactions. "A pact that outlines our intentions clearly and sets boundaries for both parties. This isn't just about exploration anymore. It's about establishing a diplomatic relationship." Dr. Emily Tan added, "Our initial exchanges have been positive, but the guarded sectors and the energy signatures suggest there are aspects of their culture they're not ready to share. We should respect their privacy while encouraging transparency where it directly affects our interactions." Lieutenant Nora Kim, who had built a rapport with several Thermian leaders, was tasked with communicating this proposal to them. Accompanied by a small team, she returned to the Thermian community, where she presented the idea during a gathering of the Thermian Council. The Thermians listened intently, their expressions inscrutable. After a lengthy deliberation, which involved much of their characteristic humming and gestural communication, they agreed to the pact. The agreement, sketched out on a mixture of human digital tablets and Thermian-crafted mineral slabs, outlined the following key points: non-aggression and mutual respect. Both humans and Thermians would avoid any actions that could be construed as hostile. They agreed to respect each other's cultural norms and territorial boundaries, scientific and cultural exchange. Both species would share knowledge that could lead to mutual benefits, starting with environmental adaptation technologies and cultural histories. Resource sharing. Humans could use specific, non-essential resources from HellWorld with prior consent from the Thermians, ensuring that human activity would not disrupt the local ecosystem. Conflict resolution. Any disputes between the two groups would be addressed through a joint council, made up of equal numbers of humans and Thermians. With the pact signed, a small celebration ensued, marked by an exchange of gifts, human art and literature against Thermian-crafted artifacts. The event was broadcast across both societies, symbolizing a hopeful beginning to a new interstellar relationship. However, as the weeks progressed, the practical implementation of the pact proved more challenging than anticipated. The humans set up an enhanced base named Unity Station near the Thermian community to facilitate ongoing exchanges. Despite the good intentions, cultural misunderstandings occasionally flared. Human curiosity about the restricted Thermian sectors led to suspicions of espionage, while some Thermian rituals, crucial to their culture yet alien to human observers, caused unease. Captain Rhodes met regularly with the Thermian leaders, working diligently to smooth over the rough patches. Dr. Tan's team made significant strides in understanding Thermian technology, particularly their methods of geothermal energy utilization, which had potential applications for human colonies on other hostile planets. Meanwhile, a minority on both sides viewed the pact with skepticism. A group of Thermians, led by a charismatic leader named Veril, began voicing their concerns about humans' true intentions. Similarly, a faction within the human crew feared that too much reliance on the Thermians could jeopardize their mission's independence. As the chapter closes, Captain Rhodes reflects on the delicate balance they must maintain. Success could mean a golden era of interstellar cooperation and peace, but any misstep might lead to a disastrous setback in human-Thermian relations. The path forward was fraught with as many dangers as opportunities, and the stakes were higher than ever. As the initial euphoria of the pact between humans and Thermians began to wane, the daily realities of interspecies cooperation brought unforeseen challenges to the forefront. Unity Station, designed as a symbol of collaborative spirit, became the epicenter of escalating tensions. Captain Lena Rhodes, increasingly aware of the delicate balance her crew and the Thermians navigated, faced mounting pressures both from within her team and from Earth's oversight bodies, which demanded tangible outcomes from the collaboration. The situation was further complicated by a series of mishaps and accidents that began to appear suspiciously orchestrated. One evening, a critical subsystem of Unity Station failed, resulting in the temporary loss of power and life support. Initial investigations suggested a malfunction, but further analysis revealed subtle sabotage. Components vital to the system's operation had been expertly tampered with. This act of sabotage was a clear violation of the pact, and suspicion immediately fell on the Thermians, who had access to the area as part of the exchange program. However, Lieutenant Nora Kim, who had grown close to the Thermian community, argued against jumping to conclusions. "We can't just point fingers without evidence. This could as easily be the work of someone wanting to frame the Thermians and break our alliance," she argued in a heated staff meeting. Her concerns were soon validated when security footage, recovered from damaged data storage, showed a figure in a human uniform near the subsystem before the failure. This revelation split the human crew into factions. One side felt betrayed by one of their own, while another still suspected Thermian involvement, suggesting a possible human-Thermian collusion. Meanwhile, on the Thermian side, a radical faction, led by Veril, used the incident to fuel their narrative of human treachery. "The humans have shown their true face," Veril proclaimed in a gathering, his voice resonating through the naturally amplified acoustics of their cavernous assembly hall. "They pretend to seek peace but prepare for war." Caught between these internal pressures and increasing external scrutiny, Captain Rhodes called for a joint investigation with the Thermians to address these accusations transparently. The Council of Elders agreed, wary but understanding the necessity for maintaining the fragile peace. The joint investigation was tense, with each discovery scrutinized and often contested. However, it eventually led to a shocking discovery. A small group of humans had indeed conspired to undermine the pact, motivated by a xenophobic distrust of the Thermians and a misguided belief that the Thermians' technology should be seized for human advantage. As the conspirators were detained and the truth came to light, the incident served as a painful but necessary catharsis for both communities. Captain Rhodes and the Thermian elders addressed both their peoples in a broadcast, reaffirming their commitment to peace and mutual respect. "Let this be a lesson to us all," Captain Rhodes stated solemnly. "Fear and suspicion are poisons that can undermine the greatest of endeavors. We must rise above them if we are to build a future together." The chapter closes with the communities beginning to heal, their leaders initiating additional protocols to prevent similar incidents. However, the scars of betrayal lingered, leaving both humans and Thermians to wonder if the fractures could ever be fully mended. The fallout from the sabotage and the discovery of a human conspiracy cast long shadows over the partnership between humans and Thermians. Trust was shattered, and rebuilding it seemed a monumental task. Despite the resolution of the crisis and the punishment of the conspirators, a palpable tension hung between the two communities. The situation worsened when a Thermian scientific delegation reported unauthorized human access to a restricted geological site. The site, known for its unique energy crystals crucial to Thermian technology, was considered sacred and off-limits according to the terms of the pact. The breach was not just a violation of legal agreements, but a deep cultural affront to the Thermians. Captain Lena Rhodes convened an emergency meeting with her senior staff and the Thermian leaders, including the elders and Veril, who had become a vocal critic of the humans. The meeting was fraught with accusations and demands for accountability. Veril seized on the incident, using it to galvanize his followers and argue that the humans had not changed their imperialistic ways. "We offered peace and shared our world, yet you covet what is ours by right and tradition," Varel declared, his voice echoing angrily in the chamber. "How can there be peace when there is no respect?" Captain Rhodes, struggling to maintain diplomacy under pressure, proposed an immediate joint investigation to uncover how and why the breach occurred. Despite skepticism, the proposal was accepted, and a team comprising both humans and Thermians was formed to look into the incident. The investigation quickly uncovered that the breach was the work of a small group of human researchers who believed that the energy crystals could be key to solving an impending energy crisis on Earth. They had acted without authorization, driven by desperation and a naive belief that the ends justified the means. This revelation led to a crisis meeting aboard the Pioneer. Captain Rhodes faced her divided crew, some of whom sympathized with the researchers' motives, while others felt betrayed by yet another breach of trust. "We must decide who we are," Rhodes addressed her crew. "Are we explorers, diplomats, scientists, or are we thieves and usurpers? Our mission must reflect our values, and our actions must align with our mission." Back on HellWorld, the Thermian Council convened to decide on a response. The debate was intense, with Varel and his faction pushing for the expulsion of all humans from the planet. Meanwhile, other elders and more moderate voices argued for a more measured approach, emphasizing the importance of the initial goals of peace and mutual benefit. As tensions escalated, a massive seismic event triggered by the planet's unstable geology interrupted the proceedings. The event caused significant damage to both human and Thermian installations, forcing all to focus on immediate survival and rescue operations. In the aftermath, the shared crisis brought the communities together in a way that formal meetings never could. Humans and Thermians worked side by side to rescue those trapped by seismic shifts, repair critical infrastructure, and provide medical care to the injured. Through this cooperative effort, a new sense of camaraderie began to emerge. The immediacy of life and death, the shared vulnerability to the planet's wrath, acted as a stark reminder of their common stakes in this endeavor. The chapter closes with Captain Rhodes and the Thermian elders meeting amidst the ruins of a collapsed structure, their previous grievances momentarily set aside. "Let this calamity be a turning point for us," the captain proposed, her voice weary but hopeful. "Let us rebuild not just our structures but our trust. Let us not let this challenge defeat us, but rather define us, as partners, as survivors." The mood was cautiously optimistic, but the path forward was still fraught with uncertainties. Would this disaster pave the way for a strengthened alliance, or was it merely a temporary truce in a continuing struggle? The answer lay in what both communities chose to do next. In the wake of the seismic disaster, both the humans and the Thermians faced a critical juncture. The devastation had temporarily united them, but the underlying tensions and the scars of past betrayals lingered. As they rebuilt their damaged facilities, both sides also worked on repairing their fractured relationship. Captain Lena Rhodes and the Thermian elders initiated a series of joint planning sessions, aimed at not only reconstructing the physical infrastructure, but also designing a framework for deeper cooperation. These meetings led to the establishment of a new initiative called the Harmony Project, which focused on joint environmental and technological research that could benefit both species and enhance the stability of HellWorld. Dr. Emily Tan and her Thermian counterpart, a brilliant engineer named Sorel, co-led the project. Their first task was to develop a geostabilization system using a combination of human technology and Thermian energy manipulation techniques. This system aimed to reduce the frequency and severity of seismic events, making HellWorld a safer place for all its inhabitants. As the project progressed, many on both sides were drawn into the effort, sharing skills, knowledge, and even personal stories. These interactions led to a slowly blossoming respect and understanding, softening old prejudices and building a community spirit. However, not everyone was ready to forgive or forget. Varel and his faction saw the Harmony Project as a mask for human domination. fearing that the humans' real intent was to exploit HellWorld's resources. Despite being in the minority, they staged protests and rallies, trying to sway public opinion among the Thermians against further cooperation. Captain Rhodes recognized the need to address these concerns directly. In a bold move, she invited Verrill and his followers to participate in the project, offering them full transparency and a role in all decision-making processes. True peace isn't achieved by ignoring dissent, but by addressing it openly, she stated in a widely broadcast speech. Verrill, skeptical but intrigued by the captain's offer, agreed to join the oversight committee for the Harmony Project. His involvement provided him a first-hand look at the human's sincerity, challenging his preconceptions and gradually reducing his resistance. Meanwhile, life on HellWorld began to change. The geostabilization system proved effective, significantly reducing environmental threats. Communities, both human and Thermian, flourished around shared resources and technologies. Schools were established to teach both species about each other's culture and technology, fostering a generation that would inherently understand the value of their diverse heritage. As the anniversary of the Harmony Project approached, a grand celebration was planned. Humans and Thermians gathered to mark the occasion, showcasing their joint achievements. The event featured exhibitions, cultural performances, and a memorial to honor those lost in past conflicts and disasters. During the celebration, Captain Rhodes and the Thermian elders addressed the crowd. Today, we stand together not as two peoples living on one planet, but as one community thriving through unity and mutual respect, the captain announced, her voice echoing over the assembled crowd, which responded with cheers and applause. The chapter, and the story, closes with Captain Rhodes looking out over the crowd, a mix of human and Thermian faces, all united by common purpose. She reflected on the journey, fraught with challenges and near disasters, but ultimately leading to a promising new chapter of interstellar cooperation. As the sun set over HellWorld, casting a golden light over the celebration, the future seemed bright. Yet, the horizon held new challenges and opportunities, echoing the eternal question, would this hard-won harmony last, or would new tests throw them back into chaos? The answer was unwritten, left for the future to decide.